do my best to keep him in check.
Good luck.
You practice that line?
Yeah, all day today.
Okay, finally we have the position of secretary. Are there any nominations for the position of secretary? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Dr. Cliff Sylvia for the position of secretary.
Second.
Second, okay. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Seeing none, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? 500. We have concluded the reorganization. Thank you very much. The committee will now vote to go into executive session to discuss a legal matter. It is indicated that it will take about 20 minutes. Let's hope we can do it in even less. So I ask for the indulgence of the people in the room, and we'll be back as soon as we can. We will now take a vote to go into executive session. Ken?
Yes.
Cliff?
Yes.
Rhonda?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I vote yes. We are in executive session, and we will be exiting. No one has to move.
Ms. Miranda will be singing for your pleasure. The wall is not that big.
Excuse me? Go ahead. With apologies that 20 minutes turned into something more, but that's what happens when you put an attorney in a room. We will resume the meeting with public participation. Is there anybody in the room who would like to present to the committee? Seeing none, we will move on to the good news. Dr. Rabinovich, and welcome Jessica. This is Mike Flaherty. Jessica Hansen is our student representative.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, the first bit of good news, and I don't know if I have it in here, but Michelle, I'm going to ask if you, this is about the Deacon's Community Build, which I believe is happening on April 14th.
14th, yeah.
So I'd just like to announce that, and anybody that has any skills in building, you're welcome to go to the Deacon's School about 9 a.m. To participate in building a new playground, or new material for the playground in this community build. And I know they've been working hard. Some of you might have seen the very colorful signs. From a distance, I thought they were for somebody running for office until I, at the Y, got close enough to read it and saw that it was about the community build. So congratulations to the Deacon's school and the group that have been raising funds towards this project, that they've reached their goal.
Yeah, they're very excited about it.
Second bit of good news is that this past Friday, there was, some of you may have known that there was the Wareham Works. This is something that our outgoing town administrator has done for the last, I believe this was the third one. And I'm looking for, and I don't think I have it, but I will get you the names.
You okay?
The DECA Club of Wareham High School presented for us. So there were a number of politicians, a number of community college presidents that talked to an auditorium of presenters about what they did for education and how education is the key. We had the DECA students from Wareham High talk about what DECA has done for them and about some of the good programs that we offer educating the students of Wareham. And Mr. Palladino, do you have those names?
I do. I think I have them memorized, I hope.
All right. Would you mind saying them so that everybody can hear them, please?
No.
No?
No, I'd like him in front of a microphone.
Okay, thank you. Because they did an exceptionally good job. These three students were, they really brought honor to the high school, and very mature, and a number of people complimented us afterwards about how well they did. So if you'd say
Sure.
their names.
It was Lindsay Pulsifer, Amber Ramos, and Brian Williams, 3 DECA seniors,
All seniors, have all been accepted to college.
multiple colleges.
I had a very nice conversation with them when they were at the table. One young lady was going into chemistry and was considering Salem State University, where my son just graduated from, so we had a very good conversation about that. So very mature students, and I was very proud of them. And I believe that is all under good news at this time. Thank you.
Other members of the committee?
Mr. Chair, I would just like the school committee to send a letter out to those kids.
Excellent. Will do. Jessica?
I have a couple things.
Excellent.
Our color guard became the state champions for the 2nd year in a row.
Oh, great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Very good. Very, very
That was
good.
the other thing I was
Yeah,
looking for
really?
that I should have said.
That's
yes.
very good.
Last Friday's art fair was a really big success. We showed off some great artwork and some visual performances. And then today, our Honor Society held our Honor Bowl against DR and Bourne. And we won one of them. So
Excellent.
that's pretty good.
Was it against Bourne?
Yeah.
Good.
We held up good against DR though, so. Tomorrow the term ends, and also there'll be a dance. And Mr. Wareham, it will be held on Tuesday the 10th at 7 p.m. at the high school. And then a couple students are really excited about the New York trip next Friday. I know I am, so
You're going?
yeah. Really excited. I thought it was this Friday and I got really excited, but then I realized it wasn't until next week and I kind of got disappointed.
You'll recover.
We'll have some dates.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
have you been in New York before?
No. Can't wait.
And the
I went on
original
it 2
Mr.
years
Way-
ago, and it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
The original Mr. Wayham is right next to me.
Well,
Jessica, how long have we been doing the Honor Bowl?
before I was here.
Yeah, off and on for a number of years.
Yeah.
Quite a while. And second question is, we have more rigorous requirements with respect to participating in athletics. Have you had any feedback from your fellow students about those more rigorous requirements?
Many that they were needed. It gives them an incentive to actually do better in school, so then they know that they can participate.
So
Gives them something to work for.
no one was complaining to you that it was unfair.
Not that I heard.
Good, thank
There
you.
may be those few, but
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can we ask Jessica to comment on her henna tattoo that she got at the art fair, please?
I love it. It was worth the money. Twinkle Patel's mother came up from Rhode Island and did it. So
The only reason I didn't is my tennis captain has one also, so I'm quite familiar with them now.
What was nice about the art fair, and that was Friday evening.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was awesome.
I was there as
Yeah.
I
well.
was there.
Really
That was
good.
awesome.
And we had community members who are artists who had booths where you could buy art from them. There was someone who was a potter, and you could commission a particular pot that they would make, and the wheel was there. Students performed musically.
Dances.
There was somebody that did dancing. There was also art from the middle school that was there, and the art teachers from the high school and the middle school were both there. It was just a very nice evening of seeing students with their performance of their artistic abilities. And we talk a lot here about scores on tests and about courses and about sports teams. It is nice to know that we also honor those that are in our drama and our art program, and it is an integral part of the day for our students. So it was just a very nice evening.
So extracurricular isn't extra.
That is correct. It is part of the overall education of every child.
Anything else, Jessica? 1 second, Cliff.
it was a lovely evening. and I enjoyed myself a lot.
Great, we're glad. Cliff?
It came to mind when Jessica was talking about it that I should have brought it up because I was there on Friday, and the student work was unbelievable. But one of the things that really struck me, and people are probably not aware of it, but the late Bob Conway. Bob Conway was, well, actually, it's Cliff Smith's brother, and he worked on the cranberry bogs all his life, and he was a naturalist, and he always had his camera with him, and the photographs that were on display there were absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything quite like it, and it was quite a display. And if anybody's got a chance to see them, I strongly recommend it because I'll tell you, they're book quality. There is a book there that you could actually sell. They were beautiful, just beautiful.
I concur.
Excellent. Any other good news? Mike?
I just wanted to add, I've seen a couple of those pictures, and they really are something to see. And I'm sorry I missed that. I wish I saw
it was
that. I wish I saw
incredible.
more. Yeah, they're really incredible.
Anything else? Moving on to the minutes of March 21st. I will take any.
I move we accept as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
401. The minutes of March 28th.
I move-
This was, just for everybody's recollection, this was a joint meeting with the Finance Committee at their location. And I was there along with Rhonda and Cliff, as well as Dr. Rabinovich. Do I have a motion?
I move as presented.
Do
And
I
then
have
I have a question, if it's possible.
I have a s-
Second.
And we have a second. Discussion. Cliff?
On Article 25, I know they were going to review that. Do you know if that has taken place?
It is my understanding in talking to the Finance Committee Chair that review has not taken place, but may be taking place as we speak.
Okay.
I believe they're meeting tonight. Yes, I have a nod of a very knowledgeable person in the audience.
Yes, I know she is. Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Aye.
302. Next on the agenda is the school committee reports. The first item is the action committee. I have nothing to report since the last time I reported. We are still waiting on the town administrator to get back to us with a date on which time he expects to be able to report to us regarding other communities and their experiences with privatization. Dr. Rabinovich?
Yes, I would like to ask the representative from SMMA to please come up to the microphone. This is Mr. Joel Seeley, who is the... Joel, what is your title at SMMA?
Hold that thought until you get a mic, please.
I would be the project manager
The
for
project manager.
the master plan.
And Joel was also the project manager when we completed the middle school. In fact, he worked all the way through this project and design and completion of this renovation and expansion of Wareham Middle School. And we had put out an RFQ asking for submissions to do a master study for the school department in Wareham and all of the buildings to look at what needed to be accomplished as far as maintenance, setting priorities, as well as doing an educational study and a space needs study from this point through 10 years. So I've kind of asked Joel to come and talk a little bit about what the master study will actually entail, and I have a recommendation to make about awarding this particular bid to SMMA.
Thank you, Dr. Rabinovich. And thank you for the opportunity to work again with the community. We found our experience working with the community on the renovation of the middle school very rewarding. It was a very, very good project for us, and I had an opportunity to walk around a little bit before the meeting, and everything is looking still very, very, very nice. A master plan for the school facilities assists communities in understanding the condition of each one of their facilities with respect to their physical plant, their energy efficiencies, as well as just the overall building envelope. Coupled with that, as an educational overlay, we'll be able to assist the community in understanding how well each of the facilities supports the educational curriculum. And with those two elements of information, we'll be able to develop potential options for solving potential issues as it relates to either facilities or their ability to support the curriculum. We'll then cost estimate those, work with the committee to prioritize them across all of the 9 schools, and develop a prioritized master plan. And some of the outcomes of that may be simply replacing some infrastructure, replacing windows, replacing roofing. Other outcomes may be more towards renovations or additions to some of your buildings.
And this particular, when we walked through with the senior study from the MSBA through the Minot Forest School, before they made the decision to let us enter the statement of interest and to move forward with that project, we told them that we were exploring doing this, and they thought that it was the right step to put us to know what we should do, because part of the project, once they start doing the feasibility study, is actually negotiating with the MSBA about the actual size of the project and the various components. So one of the things we have going on, in fact, as part of the senior study, they walked all of the buildings in Wareham, all of the school buildings, and they saw the overcrowding that we also have at the Deacon's School. And so they want us to look at our space needs to see perhaps we have some additional space that we may be able to move grade structures to alleviate some of that, as well as the 100-year-old wooden facility that we have our kindergarten students in, known as Hammond, and to make some educated responses to that. But the first step in that project is to do this master study, and it has been, I believe, at least 15 years since we completed the last master study. And that's what brought us to the point of renovating the middle school, was the last master study, when they talked about the windows and non-being handicapped accessible and so forth. So that information was used when we needed to move forward on this building project. The MSBA thinks that that is too old. We need to be looking from this point to the future, including looking at our enrollments now and what we would expect in the future. So that's why we went forward. We, in one of our revolving accounts, which is our choice account, we put aside a sum of money that we felt it would cost to do this, so that we're not asking to raise any revenue for this. We have actually encumbered that money if we get the vote of this committee to move forward with this.
All set? Any questions from the committee?
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Nobody has any questions? Ken, you all set? Mike?
No, I don't have any questions. I do.
Comments are okay, too.
Well, I just want to say that I picked up this packet this morning on the way to work. You know?
haven't had a chance to read it, I understand.
So I'll probably abstain from a lot of things, but don't take it negatively or anything. Just because I read what I could at lunch, you know. So
Understood. Rhonda?
The study again, the cost?
This particular cost would come in around $40,000.
Okay.
And that is to study all of our facilities, all 7 of them. If you recall, we went forward asking for CPA funds to do the Everett Educational Center, about the foundation, the water entry, the roof, and so forth. And that was going to be about $12,000 for one building. So there's an economy of scale because this particular company has all of its engineering and architectural people in the facility. They don't have to go out and contract with others.
So the only question, and this is for you, is you feel that it's imperative to do it this year instead of holding off one more year?
I truly believe we need to look at our facilities. There's some decisions that need to be made, and they should be made with the information, not just by whim.
Okay.
What's that?
Yeah.
I'm not. I confess I find it impossible to look at $40,000 and not think in terms of a teacher for a year. And you may not be aware, but this committee is facing enormous challenges with respect to its budget. So the question I'm going to ask you has nothing to do with the value of the services that you would offer this school district and this community. I take that as a given because we're inviting you back after having apparently done a very good job in the past. But my sense is that most of the recommendations you might make would cost money. Is that a fair statement or not?
I would say in an overall master plan delineating each of the facilities, that which would be delineated would be elements of work to either bring them up to code or to improve their envelope or to improve their ability to support the curriculum.
And while I applaud those initiatives, we were told just, I can't remember exactly when, but regarding the Everett Center, that the community did not support that initiative. We have no idea whether the community is going to support the debt exclusion associated with the feasibility study for Minot. So, which I certainly hope they do. So I'm sitting here thinking that for us to spend $40,000, however valuable in a, I'll call it an academic sense, meaning it would provide useful information if we had resources to implement the recommendations. I'm sitting here thinking that while I don't think it's wise, given the value of the information you would provide us, to delay it a year, for example, I'm thinking that perhaps it should be delayed until after town meeting, when the community has given us a sense of whether they in fact are prepared to spend money, even money that's going to be reimbursed at 60 to 70% by the state. So it's just really hard for me to look at this study in a vacuum, which is to say, yes, it's a good idea. Yes, it hasn't been done for a long time. Yes, we should spend $40,000 to gain all this information. But unfortunately, we're not operating in a vacuum. We're operating in a situation of severely diminished resources. So I'm contemplative about the valuable services that you're offering. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, one of the, we sat here, we heard a teacher of English talk about the rain coming into her classroom, about the buckets at the high school. One of the things I've asked Mr. Palladino and Ms. Miranda to do is to get ready for what they call a green initiative coming out of the MSBA, which would be to fix the entire roof at the high school, not just the gymnasium, and that we would get reimbursed on a portion of that at 60 or above %. because spending the money will save us money in the long run because of the damage that it is going to do to that building. One of the things you need to do to be able to move ahead with the green project is a master plan. So it's one of those things that is necessary if you are going to move forward. We are going to be discussing this evening and in the future whether or not we're going to close school buildings. I think knowing about the envelopes and the cost of bringing them up to code perhaps may be informative to those discussions. And if we don't, and I understand the $40,000 and the one teacher for a year, I certainly do, but this study will last for 10 years and will be informative to the discussions for 10 years, hopefully to better the education of all of our students. So I know it's a difficult thing to spend money when we feel we don't have any. And that's why this money was put aside, so that we would have it and not be looking for it. But I do understand where you're coming from. I just have to voice my opinion.
And I want you to voice your opinion. And the only thing with which I disagree is the fact that the money has been put aside. Well, the money has been put aside, but it can also be used on anything else. So to me, that's the one part of your argument that I don't find compelling. But otherwise, I agree with you. And the state is famous for making you spend money to get money. And that is annoying at many levels. But spending money to get money that also requires the town to spend money is really what we're talking about. Because if we spend money to get money, but then we are not willing to put forth our 30% or 35% or 40%, then in the end we've just spent money to get no money. So the argument is circular and ultimately doesn't pass logical muster, even though I understand completely what you're saying. But I don't want to take any more time on this. Yes?
Can I give you a counter perspective?
I would be happy with a counter perspective because I'm not really happy with mine.
It's not just about money to make money. The reason I support this at this particular point in time is we have to be in a position as a committee to make informed decisions. And we've got now an active capital planning committee that is working real hard to try to provide a systematic plan for capital improvements. And we need to know specifically by experts. And when you bring in experts, it's going to cost you money. No one, to my knowledge, no one on this board or no one internally has got the expertise to go and do an extensive study, both an educational study and a facility study that these folks have. And I think regardless of the situation, we need to have information so that we can make informed decisions. We may decide not to go forward. We may decide that we don't have the $40,000, and that very well may be the case. But
Point of information, we do have the 40.
All right, but I see it as a systemic approach to making informed decisions, and it would be irresponsible for us not to even look at the problem before we can even attempt to solve it.
The only thing I would add to that is we don't actually make decisions, we make recommendations.
Well, that's correct. Well,
Okay.
to make informed recommendations.
Right. And if those recommendations are turned down, then in the end, the money we have spent to make informed recommendations has been perhaps done in good faith, but it has been wasted.
But it's still uncovered the needs that we are facing right now. No, you can't take that away. That information is there. And at some point in time, we're going to have to draw upon it.
Fair enough, and the only thing I will add is that capital planning has said they have tens of millions of needs, and the only way they admit that any of those needs can be met at this moment in time is through debt exclusions, and we have no idea whether this town is willing to support any of those debt exclusions. Yes?
Can I make a compromise? Could we hold this vote until after town meeting?
Oh,
It's the pleasure of the committee.
okay.
I'm ready to vote.
Mike had a,
No, I'm all set. It's all.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
yes. I'd like to make a motion to move approval to go forward with this process.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I'd like to amend the motion to hold this to, let's see, the parliamentarian will help me with this. What I'd like to do is delay the vote until after town meeting. That's my amendment to this motion.
You can't delay a vote. You have a motion and a second.
Exactly. So I guess I'm just in the position of expressing my opinion, and I'll simply vote no to reflect my desire to delay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think that was 2, okay? All those opposed?
No.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining, so.
2 to 2, the motion
Lost.
does not carry. The official vote is 2-1.
Yes.
Now someone can make your motion.
Okay. Well, it really doesn't need to be a motion. We can simply put it on the agenda
Right.
for the time and the first meeting after the.
Yeah, but I think if you make a motion now and make a contingent on after town meeting, at least we're giving these folks some feel as to what the committee is thinking.
I suspect he knows exactly the way the committee is thinking. He's been
Well, I
listening.
don't know if he knows the way I'm thinking. But go ahead.
But I'm not going to make a motion, but if anybody else would like to make a motion.
I move that we move forward with this project, but wait until after town meeting.
I'm not sure the weight of that motion, what it accomplishes, but
Well, I'm saying we should... Oh, I see what you mean.
It
Yeah, that's a
sounds out of
stupid
order.
motion.
yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
that works.
I'll withdraw the motion.
There wasn't, thank you. Any further discussion on this? Sir, I really thank you for your enlightening presentation. I think it was done in good faith. I think the committee wanted to proceed and hopes to be able to proceed in the very near future.
I fully understand the committee's position, and as I said earlier, we would be very honored to work with the community again.
And don't think that we would be asking you to return as a result of, because it'll be on the agenda again. Your presence here one night was appreciated, and you won't be needed a second time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is,
I have one other, if I may. Actually, it's under my report, so I'll do it on my report.
would you like to do your report now?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
I have 2 things. The first is to announce to the general public that the building committee that we need to send in relatively soon to the Mass School Building Authority for the Minot Forest Elementary School, we are looking to fill one additional position, which is somebody in town that has architectural experience. And if they have that experience and would like to serve on this committee that could last up to 3 years, please send your resume to Dr. Rabinovich, and I will get it to Claire Smith, who will be making the appointment. So that's the first item. Second, I have a report. At the last meeting, during public participation, we had a parent come. Jessica, is it in your? Thank you. I would like to read this for the record, please. We had a parent that was concerned, and I'd like to, again, read this. Below is the list of emails from Mrs. Barboza, who was the parent who was here to make her comments known to the school board, to the Wareham Public Schools staff. Unfortunately, because the original email contained obscene language, the webmail security system never allowed it to infiltrate. To compound the problem, the mother kept piggybacking on the original email with the obscenities. Ms. DiFilippo ran a test on the system from her home using a Comcast email, same email system as Mrs. Barboza, and was unable to infiltrate our webmail security system with an email she created containing obscenities. Emails never received by Wareham Public School. There was one on Monday, March 19th at 8:57 p.m., email to Mrs. Sinelli and Mr. Palladino. There was another that was not received by Wareham Public Schools on Tuesday, March 20th, 7:30 p.m., email to Mrs. Sinelli, Mr. Palladino, Mrs. Higgins, and Dr. Rabinovich. Also, an email not received was Wednesday, March 21st, 2012, at 6:37 p.m., email to Mrs. Sinelli, Mr. Palladino, Mrs. Higgins, Dr. Rabinovich, and Mr. Fonts. When the mother appeared at the school committee meeting, Mr. Palladino, who wrote this report, emailed to Mrs. Sinelli to alert her to the mother's concerns. Thursday morning, she called the mother and had her delete the obscenity and resend the email. The emails arrived, and Mrs. Sinelli assured the parent that Mr. Rumbold, the sophomore dean, had dealt with the situation appropriately in accordance with the Wareham Public Schools handbook. Ironically, on Wednesday, March 21st, after school, Mr. Rumbold received a call from Mrs. Higgins that the sophomore in question had said something in the hallway, passing to Mrs. Barbosa's daughter at the end of the school day. Mr. Rumbold on Thursday morning addressed the new issue with the sophomore. I spoke with Mrs. Higgins, who does have a student teacher in the classroom, although she is always within earshot distance from the class. She heard the whole situation involving the two girls and intervened. On Thursday and Friday, I personally spent more than 90 minutes with the mother on the phone. There were two important points brought up in the conversation. This is the first issue Mrs. Barbosa's daughter has had in her 7 months at Wareham High School. Second, both issues were dealt with within a timely manner in accordance with the Wareham Public Schools handbook. On Friday, Mr. Palladino walked through the classroom to check things out. All was quiet and the students were on task. On Monday, he spoke with the parent's daughter to make sure that she was feeling comfortable with the process. That is the report that I would like to read for the record.
Thank you. Rhonda?
Yep. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Barbosa for coming forward. Not many parents do, and I think it's important for parents and community members to know that there are escalation points along the way, and that the teachers, the principals, the administrators, the superintendent, and the school committee take these concerns and take information from parents very, very seriously. So again, I want to thank Ms. Barbosa for coming forward and, just let the community know and let parents know that it's important to be able to express concerns and that our administration has the ability to respond. Because again, not many parents do, and it's important that parents know that they have that ability to do that.
Any other comments, discussion, questions?
Just one further.
Sure.
If any parent, and this is anyone in any one of the schools, ever feels that after sending an email to any one of us, whether it's a teacher, a principal, superintendent, and if you don't get a response, please call and ask to speak with us. In this particular case, it was allowed to fester for a while where frustration built up. The parent came here, and if a phone call had been made to Mr. Palladino the second day, it would have been dealt with then. And hopefully we wouldn't have gotten to the point we were at. So we do want to hear about these things, but unfortunately, I didn't realize that, by having an obscenity in it, our system wouldn't allow it through. So we've all learned something. But technology is great, but on occasion it does fail. And the use of old-fashioned technology of the phone or actually going to somebody's office and asking to speak with them also works. And you will go right to the top of the list, and if you're not there, we may have to ask you to wait a few minutes. But we do handle these things on a somewhat regular basis. So I want to thank also the parent But please, if you email and you don't hear back from us, please call us.
Anything else? I just want to refer to escalation procedure. I just want to make sure that I, and perhaps the parent, understands. At this point, she has been, her complaint has been addressed by the principal.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that's clear. If for any reason she's not satisfied, you now view her yourself as the next step. Is that correct?
If she was not satisfied with what had
Right.
gone on with the principal.
Right.
And I have not heard from her.
No, I'm not saying you have, but I just wanted to be clear that that's the escalation
Yes,
procedure.
that is, I'm not sure if I would use that terminology.
Was adopting Rhonda's terminology, but
But the
that's the
complaint, the
process.
complaint resolution
Procedure, okay.
procedure would be, if you're not satisfied with a particular level, to go to the next chair, so to speak. And so from the principal, it is the superintendent.
So
or
despite the
his
fact,
designee.
that you've read this in for the record, you still view yourself as part of the next step if she so chooses.
Yes,
It's sort of like chain of command.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not sure I would call this a technological failure, by the way, but that's perhaps
Well,
a debate
It was.
that we don't
it
need
did
to have.
Right, it did
No, it
do
was
what it was
technological
designed to do.
successes, actually, is what it was.
That word comes to mind as well, yes. Okay, I think we can move on to the fiscal year budget 13 discussion and potentially a vote. I would just like to give some context to the discussion. Approximately 2 weeks ago, doesn't seem like that, we reduced the net school spending number by $1,121,000, bringing it down to $26,074,370. I have been informed by the chairman of the FinCom that despite that action, we are still short of what they think is our available resources by $933,576. We also, in the same meeting, reduced the non-net transportation budget down to $1,341,652, which was a cut of over $200,000 from $1,585,000. That leaves the committee in the situation of having to decide whether we should vote once again to cut the net school spending budget by that $933,576. Once again, just as a point of information, if we left the 26 million and change in as the vote of the school committee, then it is the opinion of council that that is the number that would be put into the warrant that would go to the public. That would create an unbalanced budget. When it hit town meeting, that would be what people had to look at, but the First Amendment by charter is the prerogative of the Finance Committee. And I have been informed by the chairman of the Finance Committee, and I believe he and his committee have done diligent work and should be respected for that they would feel compelled, as the First Amendment to the budget, to reduce our number by the same $933,576. The town meeting, of course, would then have the responsibility to vote as to whether to support that amendment or not. If they chose to support it, then the cut would be made. If they chose not to support it, then the budget would be out of balance by $933,576, and it is entirely beyond my capacity to predict what would happen as a result of that. So that's the context for our current situation. Is there any comment or discussion or questions that people would like to have at this time?
What are we looking to do?
Well, there's two elements to this. One is we can be a part of the process that presents a balanced budget to the community as a part of the warrant that goes to the public. If we do that, then we will vote tonight to reduce it by $933,576, and the community will see a balanced budget. And the process of amending the budget on town meeting floor will be avoided. If we cut it by $933,576, that does not in any way, shape, or form express to the superintendent how those cuts should be made. And that discussion clearly needs to take place, and it's my opinion that we do not need to make that decision tonight. But there is a deadline associated with this in the sense that the warrant goes to the printers on Monday. And the Finance Committee Chair is looking for us to take this action tonight so that the balanced budget can be presented to the community. It is certainly not something we have to do, but unfortunately, because I believe in the Finance Committee Chair and the work that his committee has done, I think it's almost academic whether we do it now or whether it happens as the First Amendment. The cut is going to take place. So it's my recommendation that we make that a motion be made to reduce the net school spending budget by $933,576 to $25,140,794, and then we certainly can proceed to have a discussion about how those cuts might be implemented. That doesn't mean we have to vote on them tonight, but I think any guidance that the Budget Advisory Committee and the superintendent receive from this full committee would be advantageous to the process. Dr. Rubinovich.
Having sat in the town administrator's office with the chairman of the finance committee, as well as the town administrator, Mr. Sullivan, who is the financial analyst for the town, and myself, and looking for funds, I can say with honesty that I truly believe the Finance Committee got, if you remember when we started this process, we were about 24 million something. We were down quite a bit more than this. And so we are $250,000 less than level funded. And in my opinion, the Finance Board, as well as the town, felt that this is all that they could afford at this time. And I'm recommending it because I believe we've had a good working relationship with the Finance Board. If they thought there was money that was available, I believe that they would be looking to add it to our budget. But they don't believe the money is there. So I'm not, it isn't that I feel that we can live without the money, but I do believe we need to have a balanced budget going into town meeting if we are going to then ask for the voters' approval of our debt exclusions and the operational override. And the reason that we're asking for those articles is to make up some of the money that we're being cut. And so we knew it was going to be a tough time economically. We knew that we didn't have enough money, so this board took the action of asking for additional funds through the only way we had to do it, which was debt exclusions and an override. And it was not a popular political statement to make, but I think people felt that cutting teachers were unacceptable, and the only way to do that was to put that $780,000 back in the budget through the override. So to me, it's the Finance Board, in my opinion, has said that they are supporting us as far as getting these passed the town meeting and then on the ballot so that the voters can make the decision about whether or not we get the additional funds. But they're expecting us to make the cut and to cut so that they have a balanced budget. And otherwise, if we go into town meeting and we don't have a balanced budget, it comes up with, well, what are you going to cut? What other departments are going to pay the price for us not coming in with a balanced budget? So, as you know, we're one part of the equation. The town the Finance Board, and, you know, we've worked cooperatively with them. It is this committee's decision to make, but I am in favor of making the cut so we have a balanced budget, not what it's going to cost us. So if I can, I know I'm probably saying it out of both sides of my mouth at the same time. It's a hard decision, but I don't see that the money is there for us to get. If I did, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Thank you. So just to remind the committee that if we reduce it to $25,140,794, we have the potential for an additional $1,121,000 as a result of a debt exclusion and an override. 3 of the 4 debt exclusions are not operating budget related, but there is one operating budget related debt exclusion for the textbooks and technology. Is there any other questions or comments before I'll ask for a motion?
The only,
Cliff?
I have a couple of questions, even though I was at that meeting. Just for my own clarification. And I've made no secret of the fact that I find it hard to support this, and I probably still will find it hard to support it. But what would be the scenario if we reduced our budget to less than level funded? Is there any comparison to the other side? Are they less than level funded for next year?
If I may.
Go ahead.
Yes. My last look at their budget is they were, I believe, 274,000 below level funded.
Okay. So the scenario I want to play out is we reduce it to whatever the number is, 25, whatever, and none of the overrides pass. What are the implications to the school department on that? No, I'm serious.
You want the short version or the long version?
I want the short version. I've already heard the long
Then I'll
version.
give the short
But
version.
I just wanted to get it clarified in my own brain.
The short version is, calling it austerity seems kind, a dramatically reduced educational experience yet to be determined, because the final $250,000 in cuts has not come before the Superintendent's Budget Advisory Committee. And the first we heard of possible actions was at the last committee meeting. And we have not discussed them in any context.
So it's going to be more severe than originally
Yes.
thought,
Yes.
okay? Because we're starting at a lower base,
I'm not going
okay?
to rose-colored glasses this. This is
Okay.
awful.
The second thing that bothers me about supporting this is the fact that, and this is probably not politically correct, but what the hey, we're going in, well, first of all, balancing the budget is not the total responsibility of the school department.
Is that a question?
No, it's a statement.
Okay.
It's not.
Then I
it's
won't
not-
respond.
Right, it's not, it's not our responsibility alone to balance the budget, okay? That's number one. Number two is, we go into town meeting with a balanced budget, everything's hunky-dory. The perception is that everything is hunky-dory, we've got a balanced budget, everything is wonderful, and that will ease the sense of urgency for any potential override, in my opinion. Now, I may be totally wrong, but I find it very, very difficult to support this net school spending. That's all. Thank you.
Rhonda, Mike, either one?
Yep. So, on the positive side, we were at that meeting, and I was happy that the FinCom took a look and we discussed all of the overrides, all of the articles that are going on town meeting floor, and except for one that is going to be reviewed, all of them were in the positive around supporting that, including the override, even though it was 520, but the majority of the articles are, all of them pretty much are supported by the FinCom going into town meeting. But I do have to say that I agree with Cliff's point, the last point, about going into town meeting with the budget that we're requesting. I know that it will be, an amendment will be made on town meeting floor, but it does put the true number of what we're requesting on town meeting floor. And it's something that gives me pause. I mean, I understand, I want to work with all boards. I understand, I know the work that the FinCom has done. I was there at that meeting, and I also have been part of a lot of the budget discussions where there is just no money. But I think that it's also important to state the money that we need to educate our children, and to state that number and what is needed, and then allow town meeting voters to decide.
Mike?
Key word I heard from the superintendent in working with the FinCom was the word cooperation. And I'm a big fan of working in good faith. And I guess my question is, if we don't go with that, if we go with the higher number, do you think that I mean, it sounds like the relationship is improved in quite a bit compared to recent past. Do you think that relationship would be harmed if we went with a higher number than they were looking at?
You want to handle that, Mr. Sweat?
Because I know there's been a lot of work done, by you folks, and I'm just new to this, but and I've been following it, but not to the degree that you guys have. And I know that there's been a lot of cooperation and a lot of give and take, and
In all candor, I don't think the relationship would be harmed in the sense that I think people understand that we're operating in good faith. We would be making a statement, however academic it might be, in the sense that we know what the end result is going to be, but we'd be making a statement about the fact that this is insufficient, even though we realize there aren't any resources to actually effectuate it, and therefore it's going to be cut, etc. So, no, I don't think the relationship would be irreparably harmed. And the only thing with which I would disagree is if we didn't have the debt exclusions and the override on the ballot, that, it seems to me, on the town meeting, I should say, that, it seems to me, would in fact send a message of capitulation, that whatever they give us, we're just going to live with it. But we're not saying that. We're asking for more. But we're doing it, in my mind, in a responsible way that gets the voters, hopefully, ultimately at the ballot box, the opportunity to say yay or nay. So we can go one step further and say we're not going to reduce it by the 933,000, even though the First Amendment is going to do that, and then we will have made two statements in a sense instead of one. The two statements being not bringing it down, which, because even though we know that's all we're going to get, and the override and the debt exclusion. So I can respect any vote on this because I know it'll be made in good faith and with integrity. And so, no, I don't see any irreparable harm. I don't think the FinCom, frankly, wants to be in the position of having to make that amendment. I just think they believe, now, and to Cliff's point, it is absolutely not the sole responsibility of the schools to balance the town's budget. But it is the FinCom's responsibility.
I know.
And if they believe that the town has done an appropriate amount of work and suffered a certain amount of pain, and that the schools have done that, and they put that all together, and they can see that there's a fairness associated with it, I think we should honor that effort, even though it's extraordinarily painful to this individual, and I sense everybody else, to do that.
All right, and I just want to agree or repeat with what was expressed here earlier. I know that if Dr. Ravinovich thought that there was more money in the town side, then he'd be looking for it. But I know there's not. I mean, as the chair of the library trustees, we're going on a year now trying to get some money for the library. The trustees we did file our own article last town meeting, looking for about $50,000 to do all sorts of stuff on the outside of the building with rot and stuff on the windows and the doors and fix it up. It's all desperately needed. So what happened though was we were told we weren't following the process. We had to follow the capital planning processes, and everyone agreed it needed to be done, and we had to follow this process. So we withdrew our article, and we followed this process, this capital planning process. And we followed it to the letter. Capital planning was they told us we did everything right, and at the end of the day, we still got no money, and it was very frustrating. But we withdrew. We gave up, you know, and we did. We gave up because we understand that how grim it is, and we'd anyway. So I guess because I understand there is no money, no more money. I guess, and in working with good faith and all the cooperation that's been had on the FinCom, I would support reducing it, just to have the balanced budget. As terrible as that is, but it's like one step back and 1.5 steps forward, right? With the debt exclusions, if we get them, and so. I'm inclined to support it.
Any other discussion? Cliff?
I don't mean to steal Principal Palladino's thunder. You all got this in your packet. Did you read it?
Yes.
Did you read the part on community resources for learning?
Yes.
This is a shocking, no, it's not a revelation because we know it, but it is shocking to me that an outside group can come in here and give a scathing report on the level of funding our schools, particularly the high school, because it's a high school report. This paragraph here is scathing. Inability to meet basic core requirements. And we're going to reduce it?
I did not read that. As I said, I did get this morning.
Oh, this wasn't intended for you, Michael. Yeah. It's more of the same all the time. You make it work. Teachers are buying materials. They're buying their own materials. They make it work with nothing. And that's all over this report. We make it work with nothing. And now we're going to go less than level funded? In good conscience, I cannot support that. Now, I know it's going to be amended on town meeting floor because we have to present a balanced budget. I can't support it. I can't support it because it goes against everything I believe in supporting the kids of this community.
Anything else? Whether the motion is passed or not, I would appreciate a motion just so that I can honor the request of the FinCom to at least vote on this.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I have that number? I make a motion to reduce the net school spending
By that amount.
by $1,341,600.
By 900.
Sorry, by $933,576 to bring our budget to $25,140,794.
Thank you. Do I have a second? It's sort of, I think there's a rule.
Second.
Oh, I do have a second?
You have a second.
I think it's like, I think the PGA only allows the putt to hang there so long before you have to go pick up the ball. Okay, I have a second. Let me say before I take the vote, I understand how painful this is for everybody concerned. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for putting up with my outrage.
Oh, no. No apology is necessary. Now, I do want to make a comment on non-net transportation, and to your point, Cliff. As a result of, can't think of the right adjectives to use, so I won't use it. Legal advice It now appears that the article related to the revolver is going to be handled in the following way and does not require us to change the language. And
Is this what was discussed
Yes.
at the FinCom?
is subsequent to the FinCom meeting.
Okay.
Yes. And Dr. Rabinovich, feel free to correct me if this is inconsistent with your understanding.
I have not had those conversations, so I'll have to learn
Okay.
from you.
Right now, the article says a sum of money. The motion will have a sum of money in it. That is yet to be determined. And there will have to be some discussion with the superintendent and the advisory committee before we go there. The reason that the sum of money is significant is because that's the sum of money that will be permanently encumbered to replace vehicles in the transportation department. That number will either be significantly larger or not, depending upon, meaning the number we choose, depending upon whether the debt exclusion is approved for the vehicles. If the debt exclusion is approved, I know this is complicated, there's just no way of getting around it. If the debt exclusion is approved, then we should not need much, if any, money from the revolver to purchase vehicles. If the debt exclusion is not approved, then the decision by this committee to either put in student fees for transportation or to reduce services, which will reduce the need for the revolver to support the operating budget, will generate cash in the revolver, and then we will use that generated cash to replace some vehicles, but less than we need. Here's the significance. Because it's permanently encumbered, if in the end we don't need that money and we need it for some other purpose, like supporting the operating budget, we will then have to go to town meeting again and ask them to reduce the encumbrance so that the money can be used to support the operating budget. That is legal opinion's solution to this problem, and it has been accepted by the Finance Committee. I'm not asking for any vote or any comment or discussion. I'm just saying that the article that we approved related to the transportation revolver is fine. We will have to put a number in there, but the number that we put in there will be a permanent encumbrance, and the only way we can reduce it is by a vote of town meeting. And this is to get around the fact that the only way vehicles can be purchased per the charter is by a vote of town meeting. That's just FYI. If I generated any questions, I apologize, but that's as simple as I can make it. Okay. We now have a new number for the total school budget of $26,400,000.
Oh, I thought that's what we voted on last time. I thought that wasn't the total school budget?
Total school district, including transportation.
Well then, was that just net?
Yes.
The last one?
That was just net.
Then I'll have to abstain.
Thank you.
I'll
So
have to
we'll-
abstain.
we'll-
I changed my vote to abstain.
We'll correct the
please.
vote to be 3-1-1. Doesn't change the outcome. Thank you, Cliff.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So I would now like a motion regarding the total budget. We are not changing non-net. It is still $1,341,652. The new grand total is $26,482,446. I would appreciate a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Opposed?
The motion carries 3-0. And now I think I should allocate at least a few minutes of discussion related to how we should achieve the final $250,000 of cuts. I repeat this, I'm not going to ask for a vote on this. I'm just asking for the Budget Advisory Committee and the superintendent to get some guidance. What has been proposed are, and this is by no means a limiting factor, these are simply things available, are 3 areas. One is the instructional leader program, the second is the cooperative school, and the third is, third and fourth, if you will, are some percentage of our extracurricular activities and athletic teams. I just throw that out because the superintendent put that out 2 weeks ago. It's not, is in no way intended to limit our creativity and our thoughts on how that final 250,000 should be achieved. Any comments or questions?
I have a question.
Please.
The numbers that we were given for the instructional leaders in the cooperative school are well above the $250,000 that's needed. So, you know, it's not that you can halfway close the cooperative school, or so. What are the ideas?
That isn't necessarily so. You might be able to reduce some part of it without closing the entire thing. So depending on, you know, how much money needed to be saved and what the feelings of the committee, then we would go and draw up some plans to bring back to you what it would look like, you know, for the educational cost of those decisions.
The one thing that I'll say about the instructional leaders is that this committee went through a thoughtful process, as well as the administration and the superintendent, of the reason why those positions or those stipends were needed in the school system. Because we needed to be able to provide support. Again, you know, I've heard that it's another level of administration. What we're hearing from teachers is that it is a level of support to them teaching in the classroom, as well as guidance, oversight, as well as being able to have additional guidance for how they're teaching their children. I am strongly in support of that program and feel that if we cut there, that we're just taking away from any momentum that we've gained over this past year by having that program in there.
Any other questions or comments? Cliff?
I agree with Rhonda. Basically, the instructional leaders is not administration. What it is support. And what it does is it provides a vehicle in which teachers can get into an honest evaluation and dialogue about good teaching and good learning. We have not had the capacity to do this at the elementary level. We've got the capacity to do it at the secondary level, but we haven't had the capacity to do it at the elementary level. We have significantly reduced administration system-wide, consistently, and especially looking at assistant principals. And this is not replacing assistant principals, because these folks are not going to be responsible for any operational aspect of the school. They're basically going to be dedicated to providing a platform for dialogue and for improvement in teaching and learning at the elementary level. We need to do this because right now we are not in a position to assess the quality of teaching and learning at this particular time at the elementary level, only because we have limited capacity to do so. So I too, even though some of the public view it as additional administration, it's not. It's about providing a platform for improving teaching and learning. Using this report as a parallel, or using it to look at the entire district, one of the areas, believe it or not, that was commended in this report was that we, despite our incredibly lacking financial resources, we've been able to maintain some semblance of extracurricular and athletics. I was an athlete in high school. Many of the people in town were athletes in high school. My daughters are athletes. But I look at all of the recommendations in here, and we could probably put a district spin on this. The recommendations in here focus entirely, almost entirely, on resources dedicated for teaching and learning. We cannot continue to cut in that area without looking at all areas. So my first recommendation would be to look real hard at sports and extracurricular. We have, if we're going to cut, we've got to cut this thing equitable. And we have been cutting at the academic end for years. We have not even begun, other than the fees. And we can't generate enough fees to maintain a full athletic program. So my recommendation is to look hard at athletics and extracurricular. And some people would say, well, that's kind of stupid. You're going to have these instructional leaders and you're going to take these things away from the kids. It's not a matter of taking it away from the kids. It's a matter of using the limited resources that we've got in the best possible way. And I'm not saying that we should scrap the sports program or extracurricular program. I'm saying, though, we ought to look at it and that everything should be on the table in terms of cuts. And we haven't really looked at extracurricular and co-curricular in terms of the cut process. So the instructional leaders, I think, are very, very important. The cooperative school, I think that would be penny wise and pound foolish overall. So to reduce that. So that's my input on it, and I agree with Rhonda. I think that at this particular point in time, especially at the elementary level where we've had limited capacity, we need to do this. There has to be a dialogue about good teaching and good learning, and this is the only way it's going to take place.
Ken?
Yeah, it's tough. I understand the instructional leaders, the value of that, but also if we're making cuts, we have to look at everything. I think naturally we take a look at sports and extracurricular. I really, like I said, I'm focused on looking at the value of keeping the cooperative school open. I mean, if it means saving instructional leaders and keeping some type of extracurricular, and I think it's very important. Education naturally is the main thing, but without these extracurricular activities and sports, I have a concern that these kids are going to be back out on the street and nothing good is going to come out of it. So it's a tough situation. I know closing the cooperative school is going to present some issues as to putting the students back into the general population, increasing class sizes. So that would be the area that I will look at first, because I think that if we really go in and we can't increase user fees, that people just don't have the money. They just don't have the money. I would look there in the cooperative school, and despite what my colleagues say, I would look at the instructional leaders.
Thank you, Ken. Mike?
Can I ask Mr. Sylvia to elaborate on why the cooperative school would be penny wise and pound foolish?
Because they service a population of kids that are high risk, and I just think they do a wonderful job. I've gone to the graduations, I've gone through the program, and to take that program away, first of all, you'd have, in my opinion, you'd increase the dropout rate significantly, and you would be providing, you would be creating an impediment for these kids to get a high school diploma and to have a somewhat productive life. And we'd really be limiting their potential and their opportunities that is now provided at the cooperative school. So
Right.
that's why I say it'd be penny wise and pound foolish.
Okay. How many students in the cooperative school?
We have approximately 55 in the day program and about 100 in the evening program.
What grades are those?
7 to 12.
7 to 12.
In the day program.
In the day program. Yeah. No, I know what you're saying. I believe 20 to 30% of these kids have probation officers, right?
At least.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. And if it was disabled and the kids were put back in with the other schools, that's what would happen, right? They would go into the middle and high school, and
Into regular education.
Regular
because
education.
These are children that don't have IEPs, a special educational program, where they wouldn't be in a regular class.
yeah.
And it would affect the climate and culture of the other buildings.
And it might increase special ed services.
It could.
I mean, there's a lot of meaningful reasons to keep it around, but I would look there first, honestly. I mean, it made a lot of sense to have it, but if things are this grim, then that's where I would look.
Jessica, I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have some.
I just think no stone can be left untouched. You gotta look everywhere. And if that means maybe doing a portion from each, so maybe you're not impacting one as much and leaving all the others, then maybe that has to be done. I haven't looked into each thing. I don't know what the repercussions can be from getting rid of partial or a whole part of it. But I wish you guys good luck.
Do you have any money?
No.
I have one.
No.
Rhonda, thank you, Jessica.
Thanks.
Well-
I know that Dr. British, I know you're going to hate this, but the scenarios, I know that we have 4 things in front of us right now, but we did talk about a $40,000 ticket item earlier today with the study. I would just ask that, we did talk about, there were scenarios last time we discussed this, and the cooperative school was brought up, and now it's here. Are there any other options to look at?
No, because on the other side in order to get to 675,000, we already got rid of any of the other new programs we were putting in, any new staff that we were adding. We took savings from retirements. We took a 10% cut from custodial services, secretarial services. So we did go through, in fact, the budget subcommittee went through the entire line by line to come up with the left side of this. One of the things unsaid so far about the cooperative school is that it also generates revenue. The choice money that is available to do that study is only because we have choice students coming, and the majority of the choice students that come to our evening program, and we get the full allotment of $6,000 per child, is because that school in the AM and PM session is recognized by the Department of Education as a degree granting institution. If we no longer have that, then our evening school can give credits for children who may need a few credits, but it won't be a choice. We won't be able to charge choice for the 100 students that go there.
You all set?
Yeah, I would like to request, but it's only a request, that that one of the scenarios on here is the study that we did discuss today as one of the choices to be able to see the full picture. But
I'm sorry, I don't know which study.
The 40,000?
the 40,000 study.
Well, we could add the 40,000, but that's a one-time money, and,
Yeah.
it's not going to reoccur, so the cut will have to happen next year.
Mike?
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, that's what I've heard in following the school committee meetings, that this cooperative school supposedly raises revenue, but it makes no sense when I see this here that if we cut it, we're actually going to save $452,000. So does it make money or not? I'm not understanding.
It's not a function of it actually makes money.
Yeah.
It's a function that it generates revenue to offset its expenses. That's all. But it doesn't completely pay for itself. No,
No.
it does not.
If we cut it, we save $452,000.
Yes, and we lose about $120,000 in revenue.
So that
So
should have
you're
been
saying you
figured
have to add that 120 to the 452?
Well, that's revenue that is used for
Or subtract, I should say.
all kinds of things. Currently, we use it when we needed to do repairs to the building. We had emergency repairs. Choice money is money that can be used in many different ways.
Right.
It doesn't have a particular function.
But if we-
It also pays for some teachers, but are not part of that savings.
But let's just be clear.
Yes.
The 452 is really 452 and then minus 120, so the true savings is 332.
Right, because you don't take in that 120.
Right.
That is correct.
Okay.
But that's not,
One
Question.
second. Mike,
That's what, I mean, when we get figures like this, that's what we need to see. We can't be looking at 452, we need to look at the real number.
right, and the real number is 332, it sounds like.
But I will bring that to the next meeting. We'll
Okay.
have that, what it actually generated, the number of students and choice and so forth, the exact dollar amount.
question?
Yes.
But that's not the total amount to operate that school.
Where did-
425,000.
How did you generate that? Keep in mind, the Budget Advisory Committee has not reviewed this.
That's fine. We're just asking questions now, right?
No, my point in saying that is, neither Kenny nor I can respond to that, so you're asking the superintendent.
So when
It's not the full amount to operate that school, right?
when you go to the line item budget, the one that has by cost center, and if you look at the bottom line, it's about $520,000. I reduced that number because some of the money is paid for through the choice account, but since we never know, for instance, the $20,000 gift, we don't know if it's gonna come in, so we put it into the budget and then take it out if we get the gift. So it's for the entire cost is about $550,000 to run the program.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is, my comments about sports and extracurricular was not that we should dismantle it totally, but we should look at all things. But we've been very, very good about not making draconian cuts in extracurricular, because it is extracurricular. But the point is, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to make up about about $250,000.
$257,000, yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is there a way that we, like kind of what Jessica said, is there a way that we can look at these things plus others? I still contend that there may be other places in the budget that we could look and see if we can't, without totally dismantling everything, come up with $250,000. The point that I'm trying to make is, right now, what we're talking about, let's be frank, we're talking about the dismantling of Wareham Public Schools as we know it. We really are. I mean, we're talking about classes of 35 and 40 elementary kids. We're talking about cutting 30 or 40 teachers. We're talking about cutting programs. We're talking about the potential of charging people to ride buses. I mean, let's face it. You know, we're here systematically just dismantling Wareham Public Schools. So the point is, we have to show folks that we're going to try to dismantle it in an equal way, if that makes any sense.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, the only thing, I have a couple of things I need to say. First of all, there are always unintended consequences associated with actions. Anybody who thinks there aren't hasn't lived long enough. Sports and extracurricular activities. Anybody who thinks we can cut those and not have an impact on enrollment is living in another world.
That's right.
We are currently not educating about 250 children who are within the district but are going elsewhere. I would venture to guess we could easily see that number, and I'm just guessing, double. And that has a direct financial impact on this school district. So I know this isn't helpful, but there isn't anything on this list that I find acceptable.
I mean, neither do I.
Nothing on this list. But I do have a suggestion. I am willing to bet that if we put our building heads, our principals, and the directors in a room with the superintendent and perhaps, if we're lucky, the Budget Advisory Committee and told, your job is to find $250,000, they would do it a heck of a lot better than this committee for a variety of reasons. And in fact, it's their job to do that, even though I know it's a terrible burden to do that. So my recommendation is that we stop this process. I think we've heard from the committee, and we let management do its job and come back with a creative and constructive and hopefully not too destructive solution to this $250,000 problem with your approval, Barry.
Yes, I will take that as a direction that we will, after town meeting, when we have our number, we will get back together with that group and come back to you with a scenario that we can discuss here and then vote on.
Okay, anything else before we,
Steve has
Mike?
Didn't that group have input into this list?
No,
Oh.
not the final $250,000.
But into this
Yes.
list? Yes, they did.
The
No,
budget subcommittee did.
the scenario to reach the new number column, we had no input.
We who?
The Budget Advisory Committee.
Okay, all right.
Or the full committee, for that matter.
Because, for example, I know when I was speaking to someone about the sports, they said, the sports might be cut, and even if we get the debt exclusions, and I thought that was built into this figure. No.
No,
Okay.
that's, for that 250, it was one of the things to discuss.
Okay.
The final 250 is, literally, has not been discussed.
Okay. Okay.
Okay? Anything else before we move on?
So, Mr. Chair, what you're saying then is the budget subcommittee will be involved in another meeting with the superintendent and the principals, or is the superintendent and
After
principals
town
going to
meeting.
meet?
I would like, first, the superintendent and his administrative staff will meet and come up with it. Then the budget subcommittee can meet as a separate committee to look at what we've come up with.
I can live with that.
Fair enough.
Sounds good.
Okay? Anything else on the budget before we move on?
Can we move that down, if we get to it, and bring up the other people that are there?
What, you think we should be compassionate?
Yes. Yes. Scott has to get up in the morning, and so doesn't Mr.
Mark, Scott,
Mark.
where are you?
They're coming.
Okay.
And Janice says if you have to move her, she's okay with that, too.
Yeah, I'll wait, I'm fine, I was more worried about them getting up for school.
We'll be pushing.
Thank you,
up-
gentlemen.
we'll be
Good to
pushing
see
up
you as
Barry's,
always.
I think for another
Yeah.
5 meetings.
Until July.
Mr. LaRanger, by the way, I have some money for you.
That's what we want to hear.
Okay, that's part of the 257,000.
Down at 256,
We're
950.
gonna start having a bucket up here that people can just come and drop change in for us.
Yeah. Well, actually, don't you think it would discourage participation if we passed the hat to anybody who was in the room?
Oh, yeah. There's now a fee to attend the school committee meetings.
It's the entertainment
Thank you for
value.
moving us up. We appreciate that. The 7 o'clock.
Your
at
boss
Wareham
was
High School
compassionate.
comes
Give him the
very
credit.
early.
Does this mean I won't see you at the gym tomorrow morning?
You will not see, you will not see me at the gym tomorrow morning.
I have copies of the athletic budget, if anyone wants a hard copy in front of them.
I think we're all set unless somebody...
Good?
Okay.
Someone not have one?
I think we're all set. Thank you.
All right, this is our winter annual report, our budget. The first page goes through some of the expenditures that we had and some of the revenue that we generated through gates and users fees and things like that. We had a total of 146 athletes competing in the winter. That was up from last year. I don't know the exact number from last year because one roster had the start of the season and one had towards the end, so I didn't want to guess on it. So the students, athletes completed several community services again. We are still trying to get out to the community with our athletes and our coaches, and they're all buying into it. Every program did a community service. The boys basketball team went to Damien's Food Pantry at Shaw Supermarket and collected over $2,000 in food donations around the holidays. And the girls basketball team donated time refereeing and coaching youth girls and giving back to the community. The boys hockey team participated and learned to skate, trying to build their program on Sundays, held at Tabor Academy. Co-op girls program completed a parent guardian daycare workshop. The boys and girls track team completed a community service together. They worked on Main Street cleanup, helping making the community a cleaner, more presentable place to live. And the cheerleaders continue to work periodically through the year, volunteering their time with the younger cheerleaders in town. I have some good things that happened after we heard all the bad. We'll throw a little good out. The boys basketball team had a terrific season, going 20-0. Congratulate to them. They won their sixth South Coast Conference championship in a row and went to the Boston Garden, which was a great thrill for Wareham. And we took 3 bus loads of students with us, and Scott was on one bus, and I think you were on.
Mr. Sweat was driving.
Mr. Sweat was driving.
Oh, Lord.
And they made it.
You know what? When you think about athletics and what it does to kids and the effect that it has on kids, not only kids competing in that game, but everybody else as a school going down there to. I mean, I spent half my time looking up the stands, going, "Wow, this is pretty awesome." So it was a great event, and those are things I think kids remember for the rest of their lives more than anything else. Those experiences, getting on a bus and going to the Boston Garden, and my own son got to actually go on the parquet floor himself, and he didn't like Wareham for a long time. He's starting to like it a little bit better because of that. Every time we watch the Celtics, say, "Anthony, you were there because of Wareham," and of course, Mr. Palladino keeps nudging him about it. So it was a fun thing. Our girls basketball team had 2 milestones. Alexis Sylvia scoring over 1,000 points. And congratulations to Coach Rojic, who eclipsed the 300 career win mark, which is a terrific feat. On the next page, you talked about our boys winter track program and some of the things that the boys and girls track programs did. Had a ton of success, particularly individually. Our co-op hockey team, which we have 7 girls currently playing on, had a great record of 8-3-2. Justin Sumner on boys hockey, top goal scorer, so on and so forth. Cheerleaders had a great state tournament, placing 3rd, South Coast Conference. Some of our new programs instituted at Wareham, we continue to try to reach out and do more things with our athletes and more than just competing and some of the leadership things we did. We did another Meet the Coaches night where we sat down with parents and talked about some of our policies and what we like to do. We held an all-winter sports meeting where we talked about athletes playing other sports and continuing to do things after school rather than go home and join another program. We continued hosting a captain's lunch with leadership skills and how to be a role of a captain. We held preseason coaches meetings with our coaches, discussing expectations and reviewed all our policies with the athletic program, trying to be proactive. Well, we instituted, this is a new Athlete of the Week, where we had each program choose an athlete that they wanted to honor. It didn't have to be the highest goal scorer, or it just might be somebody that worked really hard. And we announced it on Thursdays over the intercom, and they got a prize from the athletic department. They came down, and it was nice to get the kids' names mentioned out there. We're proud once again to have several South Coast All-Stars. You can read those as they are. They're the South Coast Conference All-Stars in boys basketball, girls basketball, so on and so forth. The honorable mentions, sportsmanship award winners. And I also listed our winter sports captains on this for young leaders in the community and to be leaders of your team and chosen by your peers to be a leader of your team. I thought that was worthy of noting. Congratulations to Dan Fernandez, received the Boston Globe All-Scholastic Award. If you get the Globe and you look in there, I think he was the only Wareham athlete in there for the winter. He also got the Boston Herald All-Scholastic and the Bedford Times. Lexus Sylvia was named in the New Bedford Standard Time Super Team, and Brianna Muir received the New Bedford Standard Times Honorable Mention. And for the year 2011, Wareham received the MIA Sportsmanship Honorable Mention Award, and so on and so on. Now to the good stuff. Our budget report, our revenue was, we raised through gate receipts and basketball games $17,066.05. Our users fees were $10,000.400. A breakdown of what it was, what we spent on salaries, custodian, secretary is there in the report. Our total expenses were $120,036.90. Our total revenue was $27,466.05. And on the pages following that are each program and what expenditures went into what, the revenues, how many athletes we had per program, how many waivers, their grade point average and records. As was asked last time, you guys wanted to see the records, so we placed the records on next to each of the programs. Records were solid and respectable throughout our programs. We continue to try to strive to not only get more wins, but more participation. One of my goals every single year that I'm here is to get more kids out on the fields. And our numbers in the spring are up as well. So the coaches are buying into it, working really hard to get more athletes on the field and to take good care of them when they have them.
All set, Mark?
Questions?
I'm sure there are. Committee?
You
Rhonda?
want to start with?
Excuse me?
You want to start with me?
If you like.
Okay. Thank you for your report. I always enjoy, it's a very, very thorough report and gives us just a ton of information that helps inform us
Thank you.
about what's happened in the past. One of the things that I think I asked for last time, but maybe it just didn't come through, is I'd love to be able to see the comparison from last year to this year with some of the numbers, whether it's budget numbers or participation. I just think that goes a long way for us, to see the comparison and the improvements that have happened since the prior year. The other question that I have really has to do with outreach. You talk a lot about outreach, increasing the number of athletes that are on the team. What sort of outreach are you doing, or do you plan to do, to increase the gate receipts, participation at our events? Is that something that would fall underneath the athletic director?
Yes, some of the programs we're thinking of instituting next year is if you wear royal blue, you get in for $2, and maybe selling fan T-shirts of some sort that says, Wareham super fan, and they get in for a reduced rate if they have a T-shirt, having more sections. One of the things at the Boston Garden, the team we played, Danvers, their students sat together in one area, and it was very powerful. Our students were kind of scattered all over the place, although I think we had as many students there, they weren't in one area. So try to build that up a little bit by having certain sections of the bleachers that we can have student sections and so on and so forth. Our fan base, it's not as high or where I would want it to be, and I think that the more interest that kids have in playing sports, the more they're going to get their friends out to go see them play sports. And another thing we're going to institute is ask each program to see another program go and compete. So in the spring, after April vacation, maybe the tennis team goes over and sees the softball team play one of their games. The softball team goes over and sees the baseball team or the tennis team, and vice versa, to try to get some more interest and some more interest within the kids.
Rhonda, one thing that hurt us tremendously, and it's one of my ex-students, so I can't give him too hard of a time back there, but we now televise most of our games that have gate charges on WCTV, and they do a wonderful job. Unfortunately, as a result of that, our gate numbers have decreased in the games that are being filmed, because some of the people, especially with winter sports, will just assume to stay home and watch it, and they do a wonderful job. But that has hurt us since they've gone live. And
Well, there is a solution to that. You just, unless you fill the place, you don't broadcast.
Blackouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like the old Patriots, sure. And I know Mark, he's being modest, but I know he's also worked with the youth programs as well, the Tigers, and I know he's working with JBA, where they have the kids come in, and I know he's working to possibly have a game in between to get some excitement at the younger levels as well.
Well, and I just feel that sports is really not, it's an absolute benefit to our students, but I also think that it's a benefit to our community. And I don't know if we've thought about it, but I know that there are some times that I'm driving around. I'm not always going to the website, or I always don't know when the games are going on. And if there were community bulletin boards that were, out at different places, or we're able to have the art classes put together some sort of banner that the day of the game they're staked out in different places around the community, something like that. So then when folks are driving home and it's a 7 o'clock game, they basically say to themselves, you know what, let me go pick up my kids and we're going to go support the team.
Similar to the Gateman, the way they
Yeah,
do it.
something
Right.
that really does promote it in the community
idea.
more than just, the
Right.
way that we're doing right now. I think that would go a long way, and I know that I would. But I forget every single time until after the fact, until I read it in the paper the next day. So just a suggestion
Definitely.
to be able to up those gate fees
Definitely. Good
would be,
idea.
just inexpensive ways to kind of do promotion about
Sure.
when the games are going on.
Sure.
And then the last thing that I'll basically say is the GPAs. I'm just a little bit concerned with two of the teams and where they are, and that's where I would definitely like to see, the prior year and where we are at this point to say, since I don't have that information, is that the average? Meaning, is that consistent with the prior year, or are we seeing a decrease or increase?
We've actually seen an increase because, as mentioned previously, we have increased the academic requirement to participate. So it's actually an increase. I don't have in front of me what that increase is, where it was, but we have seen an increase because of the increased requirement for eligibility.
And I think next year, where I have things organized, I know where everything is now, where to put my hands on it, because I'm doing the reports. Next year will be a really nice comparison and see how we can build and grow from each year from there, as far as grades and participation and revenue and things like that.
But I do want to mention, and I think, Mark, we have a meeting with a certain coach tomorrow, and we're sitting down with a couple of kids tomorrow. The coach has made time. This is a winter coach who's coming in because he has some concern, and I guarantee he's one of the coaches of the teams that you're concerned with. So the coaches have taken an interest, and this is after season. We're going to have these conversations. So these coaches don't just, winter season's over, see you later. They're invested in the school and in the community.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike?
Can you explain the waivers?
The waivers?
Yeah.
If they have in a financial hardship and can't afford the $100 user's fee, then they apply for a waiver. And in the waiver, the parents' guardians have to submit one of 4 different things. It could be tax form, 4 paid stubs in a row, or something at that point, and then we make a judgment call on whether or not they're in a tough enough situation where we waive it.
All right, it's financial. It's not academic. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
it's
wanted. That's
financial.
what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
It's to waive the fee.
Okay.
yeah.
Anything else, Mike?
No.
Ken?
Nice report, Mark. Very informative. I agree with Rhonda concerns on the 2 GPAs, and it's pretty identifiable which they are. As far as the revenue side, I know basketball, for one, I agree 100% with, first of all, with Mr. Palladino, because I know a lot of people that say, I'm just going to watch the game on TV, and that happens if it's a cold, basketball's in the winter.
Sure.
And also football, it's also affected the gates in football, but that's the way we are in modern times. On the revenue side, I think one of the things that we got rid of is we had a basketball tournament, like the Cranberry Classic or whatever, that we were holding. And I know basketball got reduced by a couple of games. Is any thought of that? Because that's a revenue generator. If you're bringing in surrounding teams like Carver and Middleborough or whatever that will travel because of their close proximity to Wareham, there's the potential to bring in money there. And I like the idea that you're talking about wearing Viking blue or whatever color. And also, some of the schools, as you know, I officiate high school games, and a lot of the schools at halftime's only 10 minutes, so you don't have that much time. I'm talking basketball. But a lot of them will allow youth programs to come in and play an 8-minute game. And what it has done is, if you have 2 youth teams out there with 10 kids on each team, they're bringing in the parents of all of those kids and other teammates. So, right then and there, there's some more revenue being generated. And lastly, do you guys still do 50/50 raffles at the events, or do those proceeds go to a certain group in the school?
Right. We've done, especially at the football games, it always goes to a certain class. It's been that way for many years, and it's an opportunity for them to fundraise, generate the funds that go towards the cost of graduation, proms, etc.
On boys, some of the differences when you look at the expenses and the revenue generated, there's a $19,000 difference naturally in hockey. And I understand that. Are we using Gallo and Tabor? Is that where these games are played?
Yes.
So how does that work? Do you have to give a % of the gate receipt to those?
No, we get the entire gate. At Gallo, we get the entire gate.
But we're also responsible for
Refs and
refs, the detail
police
officer.
officer.
I know some towns do it, and then the rink covers the ice time, the officials, and the detail and the EMT. But the way we do it is the rinks that we utilize give us 100% of the gate, and we're still responsible for everything.
Okay. I think that was all my questions, Mr. Chair.
That winter tournament that you brought up, when I met with Coach Brigioli at the end of the year, we had our end of the year interview, we mentioned about bringing a tournament to Wareham High School during the winter break. So I think that's going to happen. Yeah.
Good. Oh, one more. When you make the schedule, are there any thoughts of, maybe they did it at Plymouth, I know they do it at some schools, where they have the varsity girls, again talking basketball, and varsity boys, maybe a couple times during the year, instead of, because you always have the situation when naturally one team is traveling. If the boys are home, the girls are away. The girls program struggles to get revenue. I don't even know if you charge for girls' games. Do you charge for the girls' games?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see any potential benefit on those days that, I know they do it at Old Rochester, where they have girls' boys night, where the varsity girls play first, followed by the varsity boys, and that increased their revenue?
We're doing it in baseball and softball this spring. We're bringing, we're playing night games, and it doesn't generate revenue, but it's a nice fan base that we're having both programs playing at night on the same site. So the varsity softball, varsity baseball, 6 o'clock at night on site. So yeah, that's something we could definitely do with basketball as well.
And, it helps too, especially if a parent has a son and daughter, and you got to pick where to go. But
Yeah.
I think
I think that'd be a fun thing.
yeah, and I think the key to me is it shows support for the girls program.
Yeah.
Because not that many people have gone to those games, so it's a good opportunity. If we could try to pull that off on at least one occasion, I think it's a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Cliff? No, I'm all set. I was going to make a couple of comments, and Kenny made one of them. I just think that it would be great if we could have, especially at the varsity level, like right now we have the preliminary game as JVs, and it'd be really nice if we could have one game be the girls and one game be the boys. I don't know if that would create more transportation problems or not, but especially if you could have the varsity level and have the varsity girls and the varsity boys, I think that would be terrific.
I think it'd be
And you
fun,
may
too.
get more revenue that way too. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Yeah. Allowed, particularly non-league, probably
Right.
with non-league teams, we could probably do it. Yeah.
No, and athletics is key to this town and to our kids. My only comments before were about looking at all cuts and looking at it equally, so there's equity in the cut process. I didn't want to cut anything because that's why I voted against the budget. But I think athletics are terrific, but again, how long can we sustain it? So you have to keep that question in the back of your mind. Thank you for the job that you do.
Thank you.
And the time that you put in. And I understand the softball team is undefeated.
They're undefeated. Might cancel the season, they go on.
Thank you.
Oh, they want to know?
If you want to know. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. I have to be a little bit of a Grinch at this moment, in the sense that I think we're in the share the pain mode. So I'm directing my comments as much to your principal as I am to you, Mark. When I look at the cost per participant, and Scott knows I've looked at this for quite a while, if I just look at the 2 seasons so far, it ranges from about $62 per participant for some sports, for one sport I should say, to $850 per participant for another sport. When we're in the process of cutting everything known to man, I find it really difficult to have that level of disparity. Now, there's 2 ways to cope with this. You can increase the number of participants in the sport, which is a great way for a whole lot of reasons to lower the numbers. Or you can substitute a different sport. I can think of, I don't know why it comes to mind, but wrestling is probably less expensive than some other sports.
I thought you said this was going to be bad. This is a pretty good one.
It's just a hypothetical. But in all seriousness,
Good way to save money, though. You're making a good point.
in all seriousness, it seems to me if you said to a coach, when your cost per participant exceeds X, whatever it is, $500, $600, whatever, you're on probation for a year. And if you go 2 years in a row with it cost exceeding a certain number, and I'm not telling you what that number ought to be, but a number, okay? And it certainly shouldn't be $850, okay? Then it seems to me that coach should know we're going to find another way, a less expensive but still a great way to pull kids into athletics. Because it seems to me we owe, first of all, we owe the kids and the parents and the public this kind of experience. I am a huge supporter of athletics as part of the scholastic experience, but I'm also a huge supporter of let's be wise with our dollars. And $850 per participant is not wise, especially when other kids are $60, $100, $200. It's just not right. It just doesn't feel right at the same time that we're making so many other cuts. So my strong recommendation to you, Mr. Palladino, is when you get in the room with your superintendent and your colleagues, that maybe that's an idea that you can run with in whatever way you see fit.
And thanks for bringing up the wrestling piece, because now tomorrow, first thing in the morning, did you hear what the chairman said? I appreciate that. I've got to deal with that tomorrow morning now. But
No, you don't.
I do want to, and I'm probably letting the cat out of the, I'll get a phone call on the way home. I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. But Mark has been working, and I don't want to identify the school because nothing is solidified, for that one sport to be looking to be a co-op for next year. So we will be in front of you, I will imagine. Again, I don't want to reveal the school because we haven't locked that in, and I really even haven't had a chance to speak with Barry about it because we're still in the preliminary stages. But you will see many more participants next year in that one sport, and I will anticipate being in front of you sometime in probably May, talking about us being a cooperative school for that one sport. So I would imagine those numbers will more than double if and when we're able to do that.
You mean
Cost neutral, too.
be cut?
The numbers as far as the participant
Got
numbers.
it. Right.
So,
Understood.
yes,
Yeah.
we'll be closer to that 850, but I will, as an ex-hockey player and hockey coach, I'll tell you that I don't feel a student should be penalized because their sport is X number of dollars to participate, but I do agree with you that we need to have more participants to validate that sport being in existence at Wareham High School.
I don't need to beat a dead horse. I appreciate your response, and I'll look forward to the future as a result. I just have one other comment. Do you agree with our student representative's assessment that the increased rigor that we're requiring in order to participate has been met constructively by the students and parents?
I do. I think we're moving in the right direction. I looked at it, and I had Mark look at the numbers, and percentage-wise, we did not see an increase in ineligible students, so that was a good thing. I think it's a situation, and I've heard it before in school committee meetings, if you raise the bar, they will meet it, and our student-athletes certainly met it, and as you can see by some of the GPAs, they've met it and then some.
Great. Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have one.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. You brought it to my mind.
Sure.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes.
I was just curious. I was having a conversation with somebody that lives in town, and I didn't know the answer to it. Now, I didn't know if it was an MIA rule or some other rule. And the question was this, and it pertained to hockey. If we have a certain percentage of kids that go to Upper Cape that live in Wareham, why can't they play hockey for Wareham if Upper Cape doesn't have a team?
We'd have to apply for a waiver through the MIA in order to do that. And no one's brought it to my attention.
But the issue is,
I don't know what the issue is.
there's
I couldn't
already a
answer it.
waiver through Mashpee for those kids.
Who's
to-
Mashpee?
Mashpee High School?
No, yeah, but I'm not even talking about Mashpee.
No,
What
they're
I'm
in a
saying
co-op
is, they have,
situation. Yeah,
they
you're
have a
right.
co-op waiver with Upper Cape for those kids to participate with Mashpee High School. Now, when that expires, you're absolutely right. We should be looking at doing.
But
some-
it just seems strange to me, and I don't know if you have to go to the MIAA or not, but it just seems strange to me that we've got a bulk of kids going down Upper Cape from Wareham,
Right.
and they're playing for a different school.
Right. It's
That
be-
just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's because of the waiver that they, Mashpee
Yeah,
applied
it's the
for.
co-op. In other words, it's not where you're from, it's what school you're at. So Upper Cape, Mashpee have a co-op together, whether you're from Wareham or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the idea of the co-op is it's a 2-year, I believe, Mark?
It's a 1 year,
1 year
yeah.
agreement, and then it has to be re-upped and reapplied for. So at some point in time, they could say to Mashpee, who made the playoffs this year, the tournament, they could say, hey, you won one game in the tournament, you don't need this co-op anymore. You've got X number of kids. Now it's time to be, a sole program.
And that's the other thing we're trying to do to increase numbers is, I'm gonna go to the MIA again next month about fall sports and trying to get 8th grade waivers to participate in cross-country and things like that. Because then one, it helps our programs, and two, it brings our numbers up.
Well, that I'm not opposed to at all, because then you got to, it's the law of diminishing returns. I mean, you want to spread out the cost over a greater number of kids. So I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Numbers are the key, and my goal is just to keep increasing numbers. And like you said, as far as being able to compare it from year to year, next year I'll have a really great comparison because I've done all the reports. So it's kind of hard to dig back to try to find out.
But I know when I had
Certain
Mark
things.
look at the user fees, our user fees are up, I think it was about 15% this
Yeah.
past winter as compared to last winter.
And the spring should be up substantially.
But our user fees, in terms of what other schools are paying, is less.
Yeah.
Correct?
Some of the proposals is you increase
I
the
don't
fees
think.
to 125.
Won't do any
Then you're
good.
gonna get more
More
waivers.
waivers.
Yeah.
You're gonna get more waivers. I don't think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna piggyback off y'all.
Thank you. Ken?
Can I just, one, quickly on what Cliff was talking about with the waiver, if Mr. Palladino and Mr. Lorangi take that as an action item, because there might be the possibility that you could have multiple waivers, not waivers, talking about the hockey. If you go to the MIAA, maybe the students have a choice. Mashpee is already involved in that with Upper Cape. Maybe they allow Wareham too, and so that if a Wareham student has that opportunity, I don't see why it can't work both ways.
We'll be at the District D meeting sometime, is it May or June?
It's early May.
Okay, we'll be at the meeting, and we'll bring that up, and we'll find out, as far as
Yeah,
when
because
does that
I know
co-op
it's by,
stop?
right now it's by school. That's how they do it. The co-ops are, I've actually studied it. The co-ops are town to town. So Carver, Wareham could co-op in a sport. Where it's Upper Cape and there's kids traveling with other, it's a good point. Maybe they would say, hey, well, Upper Cape's not a regional, not a town high school, that maybe those Wareham kids could come if we apply for the waiver as well.
As a parent, it would make sense for a
Yeah,
parent to
definitely.
have a Wareham, Upper Cape student play hockey in Wareham because they're from Wareham rather than traveling all the way
I
to
agree.
Right, all the way
to
to
Mashpee
Barnstable.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, both. Mr. Palladino, if you would stay, because I do want to hear the NIASC reaccreditation update.
Sure.
But I'm afraid I'm going to have to delay, unless Ms. Rotella thinks it's unacceptable, the kindergarten proposal grant update. Does that work for you? If you feel,
Pass out the information, if that's okay with the chair.
how many minutes do you think you'll need?
3.
Fine. Okay, then we'll delay the mid-cycle review, but I want that put early in the agenda.
I try, you keep moving
Is that a
Keep
complaint,
moving it.
Dr. Sylvia?
Could I just make a recommendation for the chairman to consider?
Yes, please.
In the sake of time, it's already, it's quite late, and as I said, I made mention of it, and again, Scott had to be here for the athletic report anyway, so, but I read this NEASC report from cover to cover, and I see the synopsis that Principal Palladino has put together, and it's very impressive, and it certainly reflects what's in the full report. However, I would really recommend that we have this as a lengthy agenda item. There are some things in here that really need to be discussed.
Right.
From a positive perspective, because there's a lot of positives in here, and a negative perspective. And to rush through this in 10 minutes now, I think this deserves a lot more debate and discussion. So I would strongly suggest that we put this as a sole agenda item at the next meeting, so that we can have, an ample amount of time to discuss the positives and the negatives. That's my recommendation.
I think you're 100% correct in your assessment of both its importance and the length of time it might take. But frankly, we have done nothing but push things for months now.
Well, I'm going to ask for that anyways, to be put on the agenda.
But the point I was going to get to is, I really think we're approaching another meeting. I don't think we can do it within the meeting schedule
That's
we've got.
entirely your prerogative. But
So-
I will not be available during vacation.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'm only here to tell you that this is already on the agenda for the next meeting, and I am here just to tell you, to basically inform you what you have in front of you. I spoke with Dr. Rabinovich. Our plan was to give it to you today, for me just to make a couple general comments. I think I'm only in here for 5 or 10 minutes.
Make
and
them.
That's
Do
it.
it.
So
Do it.
I agree with Dr. Sylvia. This needs a lot of time, but I just want to let you know that...
Before you
One second.
We just need to make a motion to go past the hour.
Oh,
of
I'm
10.
sorry.
I make a
Exactly.
motion to go past the hour
Second.
of 10.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? 500. Thank you, Rhonda. Go.
Okay, so in looking at the documents that we have in your packet, I know they're substantial, and Dr. Rabinovich and I spoke about getting them in the packet for this meeting and then giving you enough time, which is basically a month, to go through them. So in your packet, you'll see the full NEASC report. This is a reaccreditation report, as well as a summary, which I hope is helpful because there are quite a few pages in the report. In the summary, we have the commendations and the recommendations. Happy to report there's more commendations than recommendations, but it's pretty close. On Wednesday, April 25th, we will receive a formal letter from the NEASC Commission giving us the status of the level we'll be on. I've been told verbally that we'll be on, the decision will be level 3, which means continued accreditation. I think it's important to celebrate that. Our staff did a wonderful job in the preparation for the visit and throughout the visit. We will have accreditation. It will be formal on the 25th when we get the letter. That's the good news.
What's the level 3 mean?
Level 3 means we're going to be placed on accreditation with warning. Okay, it's not probation, but it's with warning. The status will require a special progress report, which will be due in February of 2013, and a 2-year progress report that will be due in October of 2013. The warning designation indicates there are deficiencies in adherence to one or more of the standards. I know Dr. Sylvia spoke about the standard in question. The reason for this is largely based on the Standard 7, which is Community Resources for Learning. Included in this letter will be the highlighted concerns that will need to be addressed in a very timely manner. It is my hope that by giving this report and the summary tonight, you'll have the adequate time to review it for a full presentation on the May 9th school committee meeting. And I just want to give you a brief update of what we have done at the high school with this report. We have created a follow-up committee and rolled the report out to the staff this past Monday. After the May 9th meeting, we'll have a press release, and we'll post the full report and the summary on the high school's website. I do want to, my concern is the cuts that we're talking about are going to be a substantive change, which will automatically put us on probation. The report will have to be filed within 60 days, and we will go on probation for
Could you repeat that, please?
the
What did you just say?
the cuts that could be made will change our status on this NEAS level.
So what you're saying is,
Substantial change in status, you have to report to them.
Within 60 days, will have to be reported.
so what you're saying is the status of level 3 with warning
Would go to
will
level 4.
basically automatically go to level 4.
Correct,
And
which is
what-
probation.
Probation for,
Accreditation.
I understand that, but for how long?
Until we can
Till you
right the
fix it.
ship and make the changes that they've recommended,
So
plus
basically,
reinstitute the
we have to
staffing.
take action immediately.
Correct.
Right.
And how do you do that with a less than level funded budget?
You don't. That's,
Impossible.
it's not possible, but can you,
That's my point.
I have to ask this question. Can you give us a numerator and a denominator with respect to this? In other words, what percentage of the schools that they review are on warning, are on probation, et cetera? I just need to get a sense of where we stand in this process.
Well, we're not alone, that's for sure.
I assumed we're not alone, but
Those are the two lowest, is the warning and the probation. I'd have to go online and get your number. Everything is online through the NEAS website. I'm not sure, I'd just be guessing to give you a number.
Don't
But they're
guess.
all, it's all posted, I'm sorry, the probationary schools are posted, warnings are not, it's confidential. I could ask,
if
we
you could
have-
have that number for the committee, I'd appreciate it, or even better, no, I guess I was going to say you could just get it for Barry, and Barry could email us, because to me, that's,
it's small, but there are a percentage that are out there. But I'll get you the exact number, I don't want to speculate.
Mr. Chair?
thank you. Yes, Rhonda?
Dr. Rabinovich, I think the presentations that we're putting together for town meeting, I think that this information is important to be part of those
Absolutely.
presentations. Somewhere in the slide talking about that the need for the money that we're asking for also is, it's dependent on our accreditation. Like it's challenging our accreditation status. We need to be able to have these funds because this is an important accreditation to have. Like Dr. Sylvia said, that an independent party is basically saying that information has to be at town meeting.
I'm sorry, I think we need to say what it is. It seems to me that if the budget that we have just approved, this is an awful thing to have to say, sounds like it automatically is going to put us on warning.
Absolutely.
Well, we're on
And-
one, yeah, right.
And then the actions that we have to take to get off of warning, we will not have the resources to take.
Correct.
So in essence, this budget, absent the debt exclusions and the override, destroys the accreditation of Wareham High School.
Correct.
Correct.
Have I misstated that?
No, not at all.
That's very accurate.
Perfectly said.
And the potential is certainly there.
For clarification, even with the debt exclusions and overrides?
No, that's the
If we
point.
don't get the
Okay.
debt exclusion
And
Okay.
And I think that just needs to be stated unequivocally.
Exactly that way.
Can we, I mean...
It's in
would-
here.
Would he be available to say it?
I'm
be
sure
available
Mr.
if-
Palladino would make himself available, but I also think that our superintendent could make that statement just as well. But
There it is, underlined. It's in here.
As you said, a neutral party that came in for almost 4 days, and there's the report.
And I also think getting that percentages, because if
I'll get that
if
for you.
30 or 40% are in the same boat, people are going to say, "Well, that's fine." But if it's like 2%,
It's single digits, I can
single
assure you.
digits, then I don't know a parent who isn't going to either be embarrassed or move their child. I mean, it's just,
What page?
this is where we are. Anyway, I don't need to dramatize it. It speaks for itself. But it's
53.
okay. Anything else?
That's all I have. Again, it was just a brief overview of what you have. I realize there's a lot of reading to be done, and I appreciate the fact that you're going to put the time in to read the
It's
full
important
report.
information.
The only good thing about it is that they'll be able to respond to the report very easily. We don't
Not
have
the way
any
we
money.
want to respond, though.
Precisely.
Right.
Thank you, Scott. I
Thank you,
appreciate
folks.
your time.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank
we'll
you.
let you
Thanks for
know.
moving us up, too.
We'll let you know when we can get you back for a more complete response. And candidly, I would like us to market that particular meeting to the public because I think it would be enlightening, and I would love to have more than a few dedicated souls in the room.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Go ahead.
No, go, if you're talking to him.
No, I'm talking to you. You were going to do it. It's important. Maybe now is the time to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Ken, did you have something?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Meanwhile, Ms. Rotella, please come down.
Wait a minute, Scott.
On the agenda here, naturally, we've pushed out the superintendent's mid-cycle reviews, which now is like third quarter review.
Yeah.
I'd like to, if I can, Mr. Chair, make a motion or proposal that we try to schedule a school committee meeting for April 25th. We don't meet until May 9th.
Is that the Middletown meeting?
Yeah,
He's not
because town meeting is the 23rd, 24th. It could be normally they go to the
They didn't
next
reserve,
Monday?
they didn't reserve Wednesday.
They did not?
Monday,
All
Tuesday,
right,
Monday,
good.
So-
Tuesday,
Let's do it.
Monday,
April
Tuesday.
25th, for the point of just two topics, the NEAS discussion, as Dr. Sylvia alluded to, and the mid-cycle review.
I take that as an excellent suggestion. I concur completely.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any comments or thoughts?
Do you want me to make that as a formal motion?
No,
Mr.
I
Chair?
took it as a motion and it was seconded.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? We will be meeting April 25th. Is that,
That's fine.
You're
with
here,
me.
right?
I'm back.
you're back?
I'm creeping back on the 22nd.
But for the record,
Yes.
talking about this NEASC, there are some things in here that are absolutely unbelievable also, and we've got to
We have
emphasize
to
those
discuss
too.
it, yeah.
It
There's
will,
one
every-
more comment
full
about our
conversation.
teachers.
everything will be on the table, and I would urge the superintendent to begin now to market that meeting for parental attendance,
Thank you.
and obviously the general public, but in particular.
This is a big deal.
And to update the draft document. You have a draft document that you want to hand out at town meeting. We need to think about how we can,
It's this one.
right?
Well, we're going to change the budget has to be updated.
Exactly. So something concise but
I
meaningful.
have the report. If you have an opportunity to watch the WCTV Conversations with the Superintendent, I gave with Principal Palladino and Mrs. Siemens, we did an hour, 15-minute program about the educational costs of our reduced budget that hits most of these items.
Any idea what the Nielsen ratings is?
I was just going to ask if you want a
Well, if
Grammy
you
for
all
that
watch, it's
program
going to
yet.
go up.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the 3 minutes, so I'm going to stick to it very tightly, and I do appreciate the time of night. The reason this is so time-sensitive, and I know we're going from high school to the very beginning of school with our youngest students, is that we were fortunate to receive a grant to study the feasibility of going to universal full-day kindergarten. This study has to be completed and presented to the school committee the beginning of May, so that if we change our kindergarten program, it can go out to parents. And then part of the study grant is also to supply and equip any new full-day K classrooms that we open. I know this is going to upset our TV for just a minute, but I want to pass out some information to you. I'm not going to go through the entire PowerPoint, but I am going to give it to you, and I'll hand it to Mr. Fons to pass down. What you're receiving is a copy of the PowerPoint that is just a brief overview. I had told the superintendent I didn't think I was going to do a PowerPoint, but when I started to think about what I was going to say, I guess I think in PowerPoints. So I apologize for that, but
That's sad.
it is sad.
No, it's not.
So, but this grant was awarded to a very few group of districts. This is the double-edged sword of being a level 3 district. We were eligible for the grant. The grant does two things. It helps us fund a committee to examine the possibility of universal full-day K, which could be a cost-neutral option for our district. What it would offer is all students would receive a comprehensive full-day program, including readiness skills additional reading to meet Common Core, and additional instructional time. It would change our current 8 full-day classrooms to 11, so we'd move 3 half-day to full-day. And because we were awarded a study grant, the department has committed to fund those 11 full-day classrooms at the grant rate, which is partial funding for full-day K. In addition to increasing K grant money, our Chapter 70 funding would be affected because as they put into the formula, the foundation formula, right now, because we charge tuition, we receive 0.5 per capita for our kindergarten students. If we go to universal full-day K without tuition, then the per capita number is a full 1.0. It still goes into the formula, but it does change the per capita. So it would increase Chapter 70 funding. It would also eliminate a midday bus. Part of the study is very prescriptive of what we have to do, and this is just an update for the committee's information. You will receive a full report in your packet on May 4th to be presented at the May 9th meeting. The committee has been meeting weekly or biweekly, analyzing data. Ms. Miranda is meeting with me in the committee and providing a lot of the tuition data, because what has happened over the years is our tuition income is going down and we have more families receiving free tuition just because of the economic climate. The committee has prepared and distributed that learning expectations of a comprehensive kindergarten curriculum brochure that you have just received. Those are going to be sent out to all parents of incoming kindergarten students, as well as distributed at the screenings next week. So I wanted you to have them as well. The committee has also prepared and is distributing a survey for parents of the incoming K families regarding full-day K. Current kindergarten families are going to have one sent home in their child's backpack, and current first grade families are going to receive the survey, as well as K and 1 teachers. Then the committee will be analyzing these results, looking at academic data on students' achievement, and prepare that report for recommendations. The composition of the committee is there before you, and we have some very dedicated teachers and principals who have been meeting faithfully with Anna and I, and I want to just tip my hat and a nod of acknowledgement to Elise Katerius in my office, who touched up and did her magic wonders with the brochure, with her tech capabilities. So I'm not going to go into all of the figures. You've got them on the slides there, but I would be happy to answer any questions because I think I'm at the 3-minute mark.
Just to be clear, when I read it, there were 3 options that you wanted this committee to consider. Are you asking for us to vote on those options tonight?
No, those are the 3 options that we have before us from the state.
But
so
at some point, will you be asking us to vote on those?
What I will be bringing is a recommendation to the superintendent from this study committee, from those options based on their studies, which one of the 3 they would support. And then my understanding is the superintendent will bring a recommendation to this committee to vote on.
But in the end, those are the 3 options?
Yes, sir.
That you expect us to consider. Have you asked Mr. Tatro to quantify, or maybe Anna knows, the impact of eliminating the midday busing?
You're in the op.
3 buses.
Yeah.
Right now, there's only 1 midday bus out of Deacon's. There's only 1 midday class. And at Hammond, there's 1 large bus and then 1 half bus.
Right. I didn't need all those details. Do we have any idea how much money would be saved if we no longer had to provide that service?
I don't really believe it's going to be a lot of money because you're really looking at driver wages.
Okay, don't speculate. If you could have an answer to that question when the time comes, I would appreciate
That's
it.
already part of the study. We
Okay.
have all that information included.
And include the loss of benefits to those 3 employees that do the midday.
That's no small thing.
No, it isn't.
Questions for Jan before she leaves, now that she's given her report? Cliff?
I have a couple quick ones. The first thing, is it the intent of the study to well, among other things, but is one of the intents to reduce the cost to our families for kindergarten?
It would eliminate the cost to our families.
Totally.
This is the exciting part, and this
That's what I wanted to get clear.
Yes, and this is why we went for the study grant. I don't want to burden the committee with too many details or take up your time, but it was in the planning for this year's kindergarten that I wasn't even thinking of going for the grant just because of all the other concerns in the district. And the committee said, oh, go for it. So the grant was literally written overnight and delivered to Malden so that we could be eligible. And we were given the study grant, and that's the exciting part of it. As you see on the screen how our tuition has gone down just because our families cannot afford full-day K. So at this point, what we're effectively doing is we're charging our families tuition for full-day K, and it's very prescriptive from the state how much we can charge based on family gross income. And we're reducing our Chapter 70 revenue from the state. Because we charge tuition, we can only get 0.5 regardless of how many people pay tuition. So through this study, if we go to universal full-day K, we will be able to increase the Chapter 70, and our families will pay no tuition whatsoever. Every child will be eligible to attend full-day K if that's the way we go, and we can offer that and still give our mothers who are very involved in their young child's lives the option to pick up their child midday.
The reason I asked the question is, just aside, the reason I asked the question is because I know for a fact that we've got surrounding towns, the cost for full-day kindergarten is less than what our parents pay because the school department picks up part of the cost.
Exactly.
So that's a good thing. Second question is this. The full-day K study committee, I know that, I don't know if there was any ground rules as to who participates in it, but I got to make just an observation is, this is a very important issue, and particularly for young parents. And just to have one parent on it, I think the parents are underrepresented. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you completely, Dr. Sylvia. That is the only parent after the principals did much requesting.
Well, I just think that we ought to go out and try to recruit some more parents because this affects those young parents, and they should have some input as to how this is going to go.
Every young parent will receive a survey.
Oh, you're a parent. You're doing
I'm a
double duty.
kindergartner.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you understand my point.
I do. That's why every parent will receive a survey, and they will be hand-delivered.
Thank you.
Ken, you all set?
All set.
Mike?
All set, yes.
Rhonda? Just two quick things. One is, if we go in this route, will it be in any way dependent upon grants? In other words, could we have to backtrack in future years because we lose grant funding?
Our entire kindergarten program is based on grants. We have a kindergarten grant and have had one for over a decade. So that's that given. I mean, the grant
You're
is the
saying it's
grant.
no more fragile than many programs.
It is probably less fragile than many others. This is not a competitive grant. Once we have been recognized as a universal full-day K community, then it becomes a continuous grant as long as...
Through what entity?
Federal government for early
Well,
childhood
They can
education.
print money, so that's not a problem. Okay. Okay.
It's like saying, our special ed grant, our Title I grant, I mean, yes, it is a grant, but it is not
Okay. I get it.
transient.
I can tell you that my day holding a sign on Election Day was fruitful because I got to stand next to one of Mr. Flaherty's supporters, whose wife and I, his wife came up, this is Darren, and we started talking about kindergarten and full-day kindergarten, and she is one of those parents who would pick up their child. So the fact that we have the option to pick up the child, but she recognized that many parents would see this as a major benefit. So I think it looks like it's a great direction to go to serve the community, but we don't need to talk about it anymore because you're coming back to us.
Right. I
Okay.
just needed to check that off on my report to the state that we had
Got it.
presented this tonight.
Great.
So thank you.
Are we all set with this issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The school calendar, is that necessary for today? If it is, we can probably make it quick.
It would be helpful because we've been getting a lot of calls. People want to
Fine,
know.
let's look at the school calendar, please. It's after 10, we might as well take a look at it. Questions, concerns?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
On the school calendar, to Dr. Rabinovich, through you, did we have a one-year agreement with the town clerk's office on election? Because I don't see that in April.
I had the same question.
I had the same question.
It was a one-year agreement, and if you recall the agreement that the town clerk and the town administrator were going to try to get April election moved to a Saturday, so we wouldn't have to continue closing school on election day. Next year, I believe, we have an in-service on one of the election days, and is it the November day that we called school off, Michelle?
Yes.
So
That's the big one.
Right.
I don't believe it was appropriate to cancel school on more than one election day. In fact, this year, at an earlier election, we did a in-service day. I called the police department. They were quite helpful, bringing an extra officer for drop-off and pickup time to the schools. And we'll ask them to do that again on the election. Actually, town election day at the schools was not as busy as one would have hoped.
So it might be something that we just want to confirm or revisit so that it's not another major issue going forward.
I don't believe it's an issue for the town since we're allowing them to use the schools.
Right, but I'm saying if it's not on the calendar as we approve it, is it something that can be amended later?
Well, I wouldn't recommend closing the school another day, to be quite honest. I would make sure that we have the police help on those other election day. I don't think we can close school on the 3 days of election. We have 3 elections next year.
3?
I believe so.
What's
I
the
believe
third?
there's one in September. I don't know if it's a state primary but
Well, I share Ken's concerns for 2 reasons. One is, I know they said they were going to talk about a Saturday, but until that's a done deal, this would have a budgetary impact on the town clerk. And I don't want it to be a conflict between our budget and their schedule.
there is no budget to the town clerk because it was the police department that provided the extra officer that was part of duty. It wasn't something out of the town's
But if she has to go to other locations and
She
pay
would still
them...
have the elections
We're not asking her to move any place.
She would still have the
We would still
elections.
have it at the
Still have
schools.
students in the schools.
Yes, we did that this year on a particular election day. I forget which the date was, but we did do that. It was an early release day. We had an election. We had extra police help.
And it worked fine.
And it worked fine.
So it would have an impact on the police budget.
Actually, it didn't because they sent patrol car people to the site to be there. Instead of manning a speed trap, they were at the schools helping with traffic control.
I guess what I'm feeling, and I suspect that Ken and maybe others share this, I think one of the things that I got out of the election results is working together, is collaboratively, cooperatively, et cetera, is we want to grab that opportunity, and I don't want any surprises and any conflict that we can avoid. So if you could have a conversation with
the town administrator? The gentleman leaving?
No,
I'd be
let's
happy
say
to. Sorry.
with whoever is available, so we minimize the surprises associated with the decision, and if necessary, we'll revisit the calendar.
Absolutely.
Okay? Anybody else?
Whoever's
Mike?
available.
Yeah, what made yesterday so special that the schools were closed versus it's, 1 day versus 3 days,
It was an agreement.
The issue was that one of our principals 2 years ago felt that it was a safety issue involved and asked for the school not to be used
I remember
for the
that.
election.
I remember that.
The town said that its off-site election was costing them more money because of rent was going up And they asked that, in fact, Mr. Fonce and I met with the town clerk and the town administrator and came up with an agreement. And part of that agreement was that we would close on one of the election days, and the town would try to move the day to Saturday.
Gotcha.
So I've closed for the one day, and I decided that the presidential election was the one that I would think we would get the most traffic on. Therefore, I chose that date, and we will ask for help from the police department on the other election days. But I will definitely talk with whoever is in charge to discuss this issue.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on the calendar? Michelle?
The presidential primary is September 18th. That's
Ah.
the other one.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
did not do any. School is open.
Boy, that's late.
School is open.
Which presidential primary?
That's what it says.
Really? September
Primary.
for
That
November?
can't be right.
That's state.
That can't be right.
State.
State
Must be
primary.
Oh, it
Yeah.
says, I'm just reading what.
Yeah.
it's typed
That's what
in.
was given to us, but.
Okay. Okay, this is hardly earth-shattering, Michelle, but there's a typo next to November. It says reset instead of reset, or whatever it's supposed to be.
Oh,
Retest.
Okay.
Okay? And there's no L on the end of schools. After Martin Luther King's birthday, no school. Says no school instead of no school.
That's hip-hop.
Yeah, shows you how I'm not educated on that kind of lingo.
What's the matter with you?
Yo, what you talking about?
Come on, man.
Oh, birth,
Did you see it?
birthday.
An L is missing.
Oh, I have it here. It must not.
Oh, okay, fine.
Wait.
Okay, yeah,
I move we accept.
okay. I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, too many MCAS days.
All
Look
those,
at them all.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain?
Abstain.
Pass your name tag.
You want to abstain?
Yeah, I didn't have any time to really look at it.
Okay,
that's all.
400. Before you get up,
401.
No, 401.
401, thank you. Please, Dr. Rabinovich, before you get up, there is, Anna, did you have something you wanted to say?
An announcement, if you will.
If you think it's important, I trust you.
Yes, our champion color guard team, they will be performing their award-winning presentation this Monday, April 9th, at the high school, 6:30 p.m. I would encourage everyone to go and see what these young ladies do. They are
I've seen them.
phenomenal.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. Yes, thank you. There is a policy review committee, and there is a budget advisory committee to the superintendent. There also was at one time a curriculum advisory committee as well. I would like the committee to do the following. A, I would like you to express to your chairman via email is fine, what committee, whether you would like to be represented on those committees, and B, whether you think there are any other advisory committees that should exist, and I will be giving this thought as well. So, and to the extent that I can, I will of course honor your request to participate in certain committees. The only thing I would say is, for continuity's sake, I will not reconfigure the budget advisory committee until after we have finished this, what seems like forever, process for the FY13 budget. So it'll be after that process has concluded that I'll reconfigure it. So is that clear, everybody?
How about the action committee?
I would prefer not to discuss the action committee tonight.
Okay.
As a